and opinions of 8 News Now or Nexstar Media Group.
What really stands out, and this is true not only of this poll, but of pretty much every poll, is that Joe Biden's numbers are so bad.
Tonight on Politics Now, exclusive 8 News Now polling with Emerson College. We break down all the key races and the effect a very unpopular president is having on local races. Plus, how much money is too much when it comes to school safety? The big price tag to outfit one local high school campus. And why a police union wants a district court judge to step down.
From 8 News Now, this is Politics Now.
Thank you for joining us here on Politics Now. I'm John Langler. Tonight, we have a clear early look at how the general election is shaping up from new 8 News Now polling with Emerson College and The Hill. It largely shows Democrat incumbents with slight leads, but they're very tight races. This is a look at the Senate race. Incumbent Democrat Catherine Cortez Masto at this point in our polling leads Republican Adam Laxalt by a little more than 3 points. That's just outside the margin of error. One area of concern, though, for the senator could be Hispanic voters. She has 46% support among the Latino community. In the governor's race, incumbent Steve Sisolak leads Republican challenger Sheriff Joe Lombardo by 3 points. That's right outside the margin of error of 2.1%. We also looked at how much President Joe Biden's terrible approval ratings are dragging down Democrats. As you see on your screen here, according to our polling, Mr. Biden has just a 32.5% approval rating in Nevada. Governor Sisolak was close to 8 points better. Las Vegas Review-Journal politics editor Steve Sebelius says that may encourage local Democrats to keep the president at a distance.
What really stands out, and this is true not only of this poll, but of pretty much every poll, is that Joe Biden's numbers are so bad. He really has a huge deficit to overcome. And whether or not that deficit is going to trickle down to other candidates, Democratic candidates, I think is a legitimate question. Trump was here to campaign for Joe Lombardo and Adam Laxalt. You will not see Joe Biden here to campaign for Catherine Cortez Masto and Steve Sisolak.
Governor Steve Sisolak was in Carson City this week. He spoke with KTVN in Reno about our polling.
We're working hard every day on the campaign side to get our message out there, and I'm confident once people see what we stand for versus what my opponent stands for, we're going to be fine.
The Lombardo campaign sent us this statement. It says, quote, "It's no surprise the majority of Nevadans feel our state's moving in the wrong direction under Steve Sisolak." The statement goes on to say, "They tell me how they're struggling to pay for gas and groceries," referring to Nevadans, how worried they are about their children's education, and how they feel let down by Steve Sisolak and Joe Biden.
It is pretty close. I was actually kind of surprised, given all the publicity and all the attacks that he has endured during some of these primary races, that he is ahead as far as he is. He's up by 3.2%, or I'm sorry, 3.2 points over Joe Lombardo. I think some of that has to do with the fact that he's better known. He's known statewide. Joe Lombardo is just introducing himself still to people in northern Nevada, and he had a very bruising primary fight. The numbers for somebody else and undecided are still pretty large in that race, so there's a lot of room for either candidate to maneuver, I think.
Recently, Nevada Democratic lawmakers redrew congressional boundaries. Their goal was to spread out enough of their supporters to keep swing districts safe. Right now, though, it's left all 3 races with Democratic incumbents in southern Nevada very close. In District 1, you can see from our polling again, incumbent Democrat Dina Titus holds a 4.5-point lead over Republican challenger Mark Robertson. Nearly 17%, though, are undecided. In northern Nevada's District 2, incumbent Republican Mark Amodei leads his challenger by about 11 points. Incumbent Democrat Susie Lee leads her race in District 3 by our polling by just 2 points over Republican April Becker. 13% are undecided. And in District 4, Democrat Stephen Horsford has a similar lead in a battle to keep serving that district. He leads Sam Peters by, again, about 3 points. Once again, 13%, though, are undecided.
Still, the trends are looking towards a red wave in November, and I don't think candidates can rely on that and just sit back on their laurels. Each individual candidate in each individual race is going to have to make a case for himself or herself. But I think at this point, it's pretty much even, and it's either party could go either way, and individual races, individual issues are going to be a big, important part before Election Day.
Still many months to go. Most Nevadans are not happy with the direction the state is heading. More of our polling numbers here. About 55% of those we polled say Nevada is on the wrong track. The most pressing issue, the economy. Number 2 and 3, those you can see from this polling, are a bit of a change from our last polling. Water supply, the second most important issue facing Nevada, followed by education and housing. But it really is the economy that overshadows everything. So who's to blame? When asked what is responsible for rising inflation, pollsters we spoke with say more than 42% blame the Biden administration, far behind supply chain disruptions and the war in Ukraine. On gas prices, the story is the same. 46% of Nevada voters blame President Biden and his policies. After that, oil companies and sanctions against Russia. Emerson College's Spencer Kimball helped conduct the poll for us. We asked him to break down some of the trends he saw. The Democrats have been struggling to hold on to some of that Latino vote. Does the polling show that as well, that maybe some of that Latino vote is not with the Democrats as it has been in the past?
Well, certainly the Latino vote is swinging. We're doing a national study looking just at that, and we see it, prime example here in Nevada, where look at Donald Trump. He loses the state, but now when we ask the Hispanic votes how they would vote, they're kind of split between Trump and Biden. And in 2020, he loses the Hispanic vote by 25 points. So you're beginning to see that shift, and that's primarily due to economic reasons.
What else does the polling show folks in Nevada are concerned about right now?
Well, yes, the economy is number one, and affordable housing, or housing affordability is number 2. But what's really interesting out west is water issues. And that's where Sisolak, the governor, is doing very well and kind of holding his own on that issue of water rights and water access. So we're going to have to see how this is a regional issue, but it's going to play very strong here in the Silver State. And we're going to have to see how it plays over time. Right now, the Democrats are doing very well on this issue, and it's helping both in the Senate and the governor race.
Broadly, what are some of the main takeaways from this polling about where Nevada polling and where Nevada voters are right now as they're getting ready to make decisions in November?
Well, right now, the voters are very concerned about gas prices. The cost of inflation, we see that in the economic numbers. We see that in the blame game. They're blaming President Biden generally for inflation. They're a bit of a split. I think the Democrats have done a better job of being able to, on the gas issue, look at corporate greed and gouging as an alternative to blaming the Biden administration. And we're kind of seeing that in these numbers. Regarding like a new sports stadium, it looks like the football stadium was the last one that the voters want to support.
One major question will be just how much of a drag President Joe Biden's bad approval ratings will be on the rest of the ticket. Julia Manchester's with The Hill.
So if the leader of the Democratic Party right now is not looked favorably upon by Democrats, I think that could lead to some serious questions as to how big will Democratic turnout be in Nevada come November. Will independent voters, will Democrats even, vote for the Democratic Party, or will they switch to the Republican Party? I think we can definitely say that the majority of Democrats will likely vote along party lines in the midterms. But what I mean is that we should really look at those independent or swing voters in areas like Las Vegas, for example, that could very much decide many of these elections. I think if you're a vulnerable incumbent like Catherine Cortez Masto, Steve Sisolak, Susie Lee, Dina Titus, you're looking at this poll and Biden's approval ratings, and you're wanting to take a step back from the president and wanting to, focus on your own profile in the state and your own record in order to really distance yourself from him.
You can see a lot more of our polling that we've done on 8newsnow.com, including some polling on people's opinions on abortion and the ongoing January 6th hearings. And we plan to do more of these polls in the election cycle. This week, Republican Senate candidate Adam Laxalt went to the Texas-Mexico border. His campaign posted this video you're seeing here of his visit down there. He says, Mr. Laxalt says President Biden and Senator Cortez Masto's border policies have led to the record number of people who are crossing now illegally. At the same time, Senator Cortez Masto was in Washington, D.C., where a vote on abortion bills was held. We're going to have a little bit more on that in just a moment, but this week she also reported raising a record amount of $7.5 million last quarter. That gives her about $10 million in cash on hand. The Laxalt campaign did not release his fundraising totals by the time we taped this program. Next on Politics Now, what is safety worth?
Parents want to know that their children are safe.
The big price tag for security upgrades at one local school and what the money is being used for.
Call 1-800-STEAMER today.
Welcome back to Politics Now.
A little more here from our 8 News Now Emerson College The Hill poll. Turns out taxpayers here in Nevada strongly oppose using public money for a new sports stadium. You heard Spencer Kimball reference that earlier. And they also want to break up Clark County School District. The polling we did shows by a 3-to-1 margin, voters want to split CCSD. Many state leaders have announced their support for that as well. But as you can see, there are 40% of the people we polled that are unsure about that. Polls show just 17% favored giving money to a new baseball stadium here in Las Vegas. $750 million in room tax money is already set aside for Allegiant Stadium. Politicians like Governor Steve Sisolak and Joe Lombardo, they're running against each other. They also oppose a funding deal for an Oakland A's ballpark. Clark County School District is putting a lot of money into campus security. El Dorado High School, for example, is getting millions of dollars in upgrades. It comes after the attack and sexual assault on a teacher there, allegedly by a student. But some parents say they're worried about that money being so concentrated in just one place. Sasha Loftus reports.
It is very concerning.
Camilla Bywaters is worried about what's to come as a CCSD parent.
Parents want to know that their children are safe.
She spoke out during Thursday's regular board meeting after information on emergency security funding for schools was released.
We're updating our plan.
Documents show scheduled upgrades at El Dorado High School will cost just over $26 million, with the majority of that money going to secure campus fencing, CCTV camera upgrades, a single entry door, and an alert system. Clark High School will see similar changes to the tune of about $100,000.
Increasing safety measures for one school.
CCSD calls this a life safety necessity, citing violent events like the recent attack and sexual assault on an El Dorado teacher. But speaking as a local advocate for equity, Bywaters says all Southern Nevada schools deserve the same treatment.
It is important that funding is directed towards safety. That is not a question or an argument, but it also needs to be equitable across our district.
So every student can feel comfortable in the classroom.
How can we support all schools, ensuring that all students, all staff, all teachers have safe schools to come to?
And that was Sasha Loftus reporting. CCSD says each school building, each campus has unique needs based on its infrastructure, and so the costs vary. We did ask the district for an itemized list of upgrades and expenses, especially that $26 million, but the district says it is keeping that confidential. More calls for resignation. A Metro Police Union wants District Court Judge Erica Ballou to step down for comments that she made in the courtroom. Now, the head of the commission which investigates Nevada judges tells 8 News Now it is aware of the incident, which was recorded.
You're a black man in America. You know you don't want to be nowhere where cops are. Listen, I listen to you. You listen to me. You know you don't want to be nowhere where cops are. Because I know I don't. And I'm a middle-aged, middle-class black woman. I don't want to be around where the cops are because I don't know if I'm going to walk away alive or not.
Judge Ballou made those comments during a probation hearing. The suspect in the case is accused of committing battery against an officer while still on probation for another crime. In a statement to 8 News Now, Judge Ballou says she supports proper law enforcement and was trying to be straightforward and understandable to the defendant. The Judicial Commission in Nevada says it will consider all complaints that it receives about this incident. Should we be concerned about TikTok? Next on Politics Now, the national security objections being raised to the social media app. Plus, will the Senate pass any abortion bills? Why Democrats are trying to force votes they know won't pass. It's 8 News.
You're watching Politics Now.
A man who chased Governor Steve Sisolak at a restaurant earlier this year has taken his own life. The 8 News Now I-team has learned 38-year-old Justin Andersich died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound last weekend. Metro Police say they were interviewing his partner about an alleged domestic disturbance. Andersich arrived back at the scene, and that's when officers say he took his own life. In February, he posted video of himself chasing and threatening the governor and First Lady Kathy Sisolak. Andersich's father tells the I-team his family is meeting with investigators now to learn more about what happened. Well, back in Washington, a series of new abortion legislation was introduced by Democrats. It didn't make it out of the Senate, though. The bills would have restored access to abortion nationwide. It also would protect access to contraception as conservative states eye restrictions beyond abortion. This, of course, after the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Democrats say health providers are stuck trying to violate state law. They also have several bills aimed at protecting access to contraception. That's something Republican Senator Roger Marshall says is unnecessary.
Every state abortion law triggered by overturning Roe includes an exception to save the life of the mother.
Some have already been instructed to observe patients until they have unstable vital signs before acting. That is absolutely barbaric.
Joining us is Alexandra Limon from our Washington, D.C. bureau. Alex, Planned Parenthood in Nevada says it's already seeing women coming here from other states to get abortions. How would this legislation have protected them?
Hey there, John. Well, what Democratic senators were trying to do was to pass a federal law that would basically invalidate any state laws from states that were trying to ban women from traveling across state lines to access abortions. And it would have invalidated those laws and would have given the DOJ, for example, the authority to go after states if they did indeed try to violate those restrictions. We've heard a lot about this issue, and part of this is that some clinics are also concerned that they'll just be overwhelmed by the sheer number of people who are coming to the clinics.
Why did Democrats call for the vote now? We kind of know they didn't have much of a chance of passing.
Right, and they knew that, which is in part why they called for this as a unanimous consent vote. And what they're trying to do here, though, is they said so themselves, Democratic senators, to showcase the differences between the Democratic Party and Republicans. Keep in mind, we are heading into a November midterm election, and Democrats are hopeful that this issue is really going to galvanize their voters, and really maybe they're trying to connect with women, suburban women who are undecided voters who can go either way on an issue that they feel is important to that base, because, you know, we hear Democratic senators, lawmakers in general talk about this a lot, that new restrictive measures on abortions won't necessarily have the effect of driving down the number of abortions. Instead, they may cause women to seek dangerous alternative ways to have abortions. And so they really do feel that this is an issue that is important to their base and that could drive people to vote in the upcoming November election.
And that was Alex Limon from Washington, D.C. Nevada already has the most permissive abortion law in the country at 24 weeks. A lot of those other things being considered, including access to birth control, are already in Nevada law. Well, TikTok is stirring up concern from federal lawmakers and leaders. They're sounding the alarm after new reports show the private data of some users here in the U.S. might not be so private. Hannah Brandt explains why some say that's a national security risk.
The popular app TikTok has millions of U.S. users, and recent reporting from BuzzFeed News set off alarm bells when it revealed that China is accessing their data.
It was really disturbing to me, knowing what we know about China's nefarious intentions.
Experts fear China could use the data for things like targeted blackmail, political manipulation, and advancing artificial intelligence.
To have China have access to that, it should scare the dickens out of all of us. This is a security concern.
That's why Senator Mark Warner and Senator Marco Rubio teamed up to ask the Federal Trade Commission to investigate TikTok.
There are a whole litany of tools that the Federal Trade Commission can use in these kind of deceptive practices acts.
And Federal Communications Commissioner Brendan Carr is pressuring Google and Apple to remove TikTok from their app stores. He also wants to see federal agencies get involved.
Whether it's the FTC, Treasury, Commerce, we take immediate action and stop these surreptitious flows of data back into China.
But Virginia Tech cybersecurity expert Aaron Brantley is looking to lawmakers for
a legislative solution to require onshoring of U.S. national data.
He says then private data wouldn't be allowed to leave the U.S. without specific legal permission. Senator Warner doesn't think full onshoring is the solution, but believes national data privacy regulations are long overdue.
TikTok is quite popular, but it shouldn't be that popularity at the cost of every American's individual privacy.
In Washington, I'm Hannah Brandt.
Back here in Las Vegas next week, Las Vegas City Council members will discuss a new curfew in and around the Fremont Street Experience. The proposal restricts anyone under 21 from the area from 9 p.m. through 5 a.m. 7 days a week. And if someone is underaged, they'd have to be with a parent or a guardian. The heightened concern comes after 2 shootings at the Fremont Street Experience over the last month, one of them deadly. Next on Politics Now, a journey back in time. We'll take a look at some amazing images pouring in from NASA's newest telescope and what NASA hopes to achieve on Politics Now.
Started. You're watching Politics Now.
Finally, here on Politics Now, we want to leave you with some amazing images from space. This is Carina Nebula, 7,600 light years away, just out of the reach of our polling. That means it's traveling at the speed of light. It would take you 7,600 years to get there. It's one of the amazing pictures that we got of our universe from NASA's James Webb Space Telescope.
They're fantastic, absolutely beautiful, and they're a real hint at the power that the observatory will have.
Now, the hope for James Webb and the telescope is that the deeper it sees into space, the deeper back in time we'll get to see and provide answers, more answers, about the birth of our universe. Very interesting stuff. That'll do it for us here on Politics Now. All the latest political news and even intergalactic news on 8newsnow.com. We're back with you on Saturday as well. Take care.